In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create an animated character in After Effects. Hello and thanks for watching. I'm Spence, Project Director at Motion Glass Studios. Let's jump into it. Today, we're going to show you how to create an animated character in After Effects. Also, I'm going to introduce you to Flick, our fiery on-screen narrator that we created specifically for our fire safety series. When it comes to training videos, nobody's super excited to jump in line and be the first to watch it. But here at Motion Glass, we like to make training engaging, fun, and entertaining. So that's exactly what we did for our newest training series on fire safety.
Hi, I'm Flick. I'm here to talk to you about fire safety.
But before we start, please take a minute to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment below, and be sure to follow us on our social media. So our team at Motion Glass worked very closely with our learning development team at our parent company, Ready Training Online, or RTO. We wanted to ensure that Flick's style aligned perfectly with the fire safety messaging. It was a fine balance to make sure that Flick was engaging, but not too goofy, because this is serious subject matter. After we had done some initial sketches of Flick, we took those sketches into Illustrator to bring them to life, making sure that they were vector-based. This would be important later if we ever need to scale Flick up or down. It took 3 layers for Flick's body. Layer 1 being the outer flames, layer 2 the inner flames, and then layer 3 the innermost core, or the brightest part of Flick. Now, since the body is such an abstract shape, it's a lot more forgiving. Now let's move on to the eyes. In referencing the eyes to the likes of Disney and Pixar, the bigger the eyes, the cuter the character. So we took that approach to design the main look for Flick. We also created other variations, including half blinking, closed, mischievous, and of course, puppy dog eyes. There are several charts for eye styles. I highly recommend looking up the style that best suits your needs. Now the mouth we designed based on examples we found online. We created vectors of each mouth pose. Just remember to save each pose as its own group, and we labeled them as such. So now we have the elements to bring our character to life, but we don't have any audio, so we got to take care of that problem. Thankfully, I was fortunate enough to hire a longtime friend of mine who was perfect for this role, Ariana Kroll.
That's why fire safety is so important. The more you know about it, the more prepared and confident you'll be in any fire situation.
We brought her into the studio and had her record her lines, and I fortunately had the foresight to record her as she was delivering her lines because I wanted to capture her facial expressions, any shifts or tilting of her head to give even more life when it came to animating Flick. Now that the lines have been recorded, it's time to dive into After Effects. Here we go. Once inside of After Effects, we have to import our files. So the first step was creating Flick's body as a looping animation. I'm going to create a new composition, set it to whatever dimensions you want it. In this case, I'm going to create it just in the dimensions of the character. I don't need it for our final pose yet. All right, let's bring the body layers into our composition. All right, so we should have all 3 of our layers here. The bottom one being the bigger portion, the body mass, then the inner body, and then the smaller inner glow section. To the inner glow, I'm going to change the blending mode to overlay. I'm going to go up to the effects panel and type in blur and bring up Gaussian blur. I'm going to change that to 150. Then I'm going to search for wave warp. I'm going to make sure the type is sine, the height is 23, and the width is 200. Now let's duplicate that top layer. We're going to change the blend mode to screen. So before we move on, let's go ahead and grab those effects that we've added to both of these layers. Let's copy those. And then on layer 3, let's apply those effects. Now for our Gaussian blur, let's change that number to 50. We're going to make sure that our blend mode is set to overlay. And we're going to change our wave warp. The height will be 5 and the width will be 500. On the 4th layer, our body mass layer, we're just going to apply the wave warp effect. We're going to make sure that the height is 8 and the width is 200. And then I'm going to duplicate that back layer, drag that below to make sure that's layer 5 in the very back. And I'm going to retitle this Back Fire. So this is going to be more of like a flickering effect that's going to be happening behind Flick. We're going to search for turbulent displacement. We're going to change the type to turbulent. I'm going to change the amount to 683. Make sure this amount is 100. And I'm going to make the offset really high above the canvas, so almost double the height of the canvas. Next, I'm going to go back to effects and presets. I'm going to search for CC vector blur. I'm going to change that type to direction center. The amount is 108. Map softness to 15. Now we're going to add compound blur, bring that onto our layer. Make sure the blur type is set to self, maximum blur 14. And then we're going to add a glow layer to this. Color channels, our threshold, we're going to bring that to 60.6%.
Now on the turbulent displaced layer, you're going to alt-click on evolution.
And we're going to type in wiggle 10,5, and that should apply that. Now that the body is animated, it's time to move on to the mouth. For this, we're going to be using a plugin called SF-Caddy. We'll have a link down in the description below. You don't have to use it, but it was super helpful for us, and it was relatively inexpensive. All right, so in a new composition, we're going to add each of our mouth poses for the timeline, and we're going to make sure that those are set for 1 second each, making sure that I add labels to mark where each lip pose was located. Once we have that all done, in our main flick animation composition, we'll bring that comp in and drag it into our SF-Caddy window, and there it populates all the mouth poses for us. All we have to do now is line up the mouth poses with the audio. Before we knew it, our mouth layers were fully animated, and once we had them all aligned, we selected all the keyframes, and we slid them back 2 frames. Apparently, in the time it takes to process video and audio together in the brain is about 2 frames. So this was a helpful tip that I learned from somewhere on YouTube, so whoever it was, thank you. Now we're moving on to animating the eyes. Similar to the mouth, we used SF-Caddy, and we just drug those layers into SF-Caddy, which preloaded all our presets for us, and we just timed all those out. I love the expressiveness of the eyes. It was just adds so much to the character, especially when she gets a little carried away.
Sorry.
No problem. Now that everything's animated, it's time to put it all together. All right, to keep everything organized, I created a folder for each of the scenes that we needed, and I duplicated all of the comps that we've created previously. So in a new comp for a new scene, I brought in a duplicate of our comp for our eyes, for our mouth, and not forgetting our audio layers, the looping video of the body comes in too. Then I created a null object and parent all of our layers to it, making sure that they were in appropriate location on Flick's body. I like having a null right in the center, kind of where the nose would be. And finally, I added the video of our actress off to the side so I could keyframe the position, rotation, and scale of Flick according to the head movements of the actress. So in a roundabout sort of way, she helped us with performance capture too. I would go through each scene and animate Flick's body movements and rotations along with her head bobs and tilts, and when finished, this was the result.
Fires aren't magic. They don't just happen by themselves. 3 elements must be present for a fire to burn.
And there you have it. We repeated this process for each of the scenes, and before we knew it, we had a fully animated Flick.
I'm Flick, reminding you to stay safe out there. And I'm out.
Thanks for watching. I'm Spence from Motion Glass Studios, where we create motion. And I'm out.